Natasha and Her Illegitimate Child in a Muslim Society. A novel by Dr. A. Ahmed. Book 1. This is an intriguing epic story which resonates with love, resilience, courage, and sacrifice. Before we dive into the tapestry of the story, I would like to inform the reader this novel is narrated in 2 books. Copyrights. All rights are reserved. No part of this book may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means without the prior written permission of the author, except by a reviewer, who may quote brief paragraphs for a review to be printed in a public newspaper, general magazine, school journal, or university article. This novel is a work of fiction, but the entire story is based on the real life of a Muslim family. All names, characters, places, and events are either the product of the author's imagination or used literary. Therefore, any resemblance to real people, living or dead, events or locales is merely coincidental. Chapter 1. The Half-Caste Girl. In all the 55 Muslim countries, from Burkina Faso to Indonesia, adoption is illegal, and abortion is a crime punishable by the Sharia. Adoption is outlawed by the Holy Quran and the Hadiths of the founder of Islam. Such restriction happened when the Prophet Muhammad coveted and decided to marry his cousin and daughter-in-law, Zainab bint Jahash, the wife of his adopted son Zayd ibn Muhammad. See Surah Al-Ahzab 33, verses 36 to 40. From that day onwards it became unlawful in Islam for any Muslim to adopt a child. Accordingly, no individual Muslim or Islamic group can own or run an orphanage. Those religious restrictions created an extremely insurmountable problem for one of the noblest families in the city of Wad Madani in Sudan. Shams al-Din's family's daughter was impregnated by someone before marriage. Everyone knows that the girl has been deceived by her neighbor, but no one could prove it. She was 14 years old when she supposedly fell in love with her neighbor who was twice as old than her age. In addition to that, the man was already married and had 2 children. Practically, in the Muslim countries, when a girl gets impregnated before marriage, her family would be left with a few options. Either to perform an honor killing on her or force the man who impregnated her to marry her before the scandal leaks out and the case reaches the Sharia court. In some cases, the family of that misfortunate girl might be moved by compassion due to their love for their daughter and allow her to deliver the illegitimate baby and then strangle it to death and bury its body inside their house compound. This evil option might temporarily solve the difficult problem, but it would create many other insurmountable problems which would haunt that family forever. No one would ever marry that girl until she would die in her parents' house. Worse than that, no family would agree to give their daughters or sons in marriage to the brothers or sisters or even the cousins of that fallen girl. Sometimes, the family members of that disgraced girl might flee to a far city or another country to hide from the scandal. The last option is open for the so-called disgraced girl herself. To escape the honor killing by her family or the 100 lashes of the Sharia court and the scandal, the girl might run away from home and become a prostitute in another city. Shams al-Din's family rejected all those options and decided to seek a new solution to save the life of their only daughter and save her illegitimate baby too. The girl's father, Sami Shams al-Din, was born and brought up as a Muslim in Sudan, but when he grew up, he became a communist and atheist. Before he got married, Sami studied medicine in the capital city of Russia, Moscow. During his 6 years of study, he fell in love with a Russian girl. Although his girlfriend, Natasha Alexandrov, was born and raised as an Orthodox Christian, but when she grew up, she rejected her Christian faith and became a communist and irreligious person. To please his Muslim family in Sudan and avoid being accused of converting to Christianity, Sami Shams al-Din convinced his girlfriend to make a lips confession of being converted to Islam. Before their marriage, Sami Shams al-Din took his girlfriend, Natasha Alexandrov, to a mosque in Moscow and made her utter the Shahada, or the Islamic creed for accepting Islam, in the hearing of the imam of that mosque. Then he changed her name from Natasha to Nadia. Shortly after that, the lovers got married in the same mosque. Neither Sami Shams al-Din nor Nadia Alexandrov is a Muslim. Shortly after their marriage, their daughter was born. Nadia decided to keep the memory of her Russian name, and therefore she had named her daughter Natasha. The truth of the matter is that Nadia was already 4 months pregnant when the lovers had conducted their Islamic marriage. After their marriage, the Shams al-Din family lived for 12 years in Russia before they moved to Sudan. Natasha is the only fruit of that love affair. She is a half-caste daughter. A half-caste is a term used for individuals of multiracial descent. It is derived from the term caste, which comes from the Latin castus, meaning pure, and the derivative Portuguese and Spanish word casta, meaning race. Terms such as half-caste, caste, quarter caste, and mixed breed were used by colonial officials in the British Empire during their classification of indigenous populations, and in Australia used during the Australian government's pursuit of a policy of assimilation. In Latin America, the equivalent term for a half-caste person is cholo and zambo. During the British colonization of India, the term half-caste was used to refer to a person whose parents are of different races, in particular, a European father and an Indian mother. Today, such a person is called in India an Anglo-Indian. Natasha was born in Russia, and when she was 12 years old, her parents brought her to Sudan. She did not experience any Islamic upbringing and knew nothing of that religion. She is irreligious like her parents. She is very much influenced by Western life during her stay in the city of Moscow. Despite that, she is counted as a Muslim girl because her parents claimed to be Muslims. When Shams al-Din's family moved to Sudan, Sami's mother constantly nagged her son about having his daughter circumcised according to the Islamic custom. She always warned her son of the danger of having an uncircumcised daughter in a Muslim society. According to her, an uncircumcised female child would grow up into a wild girl that would be difficult to tame when she reached the age of puberty. The mother believed that the uncircumcised girl would be a danger to her family and society, and she would fall into the sin of adultery and bring great disgrace to her father. She is like all Muslim women who believe circumcision can help the girl to control her sexual desire. Sami's mother backed up her arguments by referring to the hadith of the Prophet Muhammad, which said, "Circumcision is a law for men and a preservation of honor for women," mentioned in Sunan Abu Dawud. Furthermore, the mother believed that those additional private parts of the girl's vagina, the labia majora, the labia minora, and the clitoris, which the midwife would excise during the female genital mutilation, besides being the source of great temptation, produce a repugnant odor that will kill the sexual desire of the husband during the sexual intercourse. Sami refused to believe such a nonsense theory on the ground that his Russian wife, Nadia Alexandrov, had not been circumcised, and nothing of that sort is associated with her private parts. Even during sex, when his dick goes inside her pussy, he didn't smell such a bad odor emitting out of her. Following the commandment of the Prophet Muhammad, Muslims circumcise their girls so that they could preserve the honor of their families. The honor of the Muslim family is located between the legs of the woman. Every Muslim girl would be circumcised at the age of 4 or 5. Female genital mutilation involves the removal of the sealing of the labia majora and the labia minora together after the entire clitoris has been removed, quoting an article by Lois, 1985, page 115. When the Muslim girl is subjected to the procedure of female genital mutilation, she would become abnormal. Her vagina would be so narrowed or so sealed that it would be reduced to a small hole that allows her only to urinate. The woman who performs the circumcision would use something little bigger than a needle and smaller than a straw to measure the hole that should be left open after the circumcision. That hole would be a little bigger than the eye of a needle. When the girl reached the age of puberty, she would not be able to practice sex even if she wanted to do so. The circumcised girl would experience unbearable pain as if she is being raped, and that supposedly would prevent her from having sex before marriage. Accordingly, Female genital mutilation or cutting is meant to control the sexuality of the Muslim woman and destroy her desire for the opposite sex. It is barbaric, painful, and harms the woman. Sami Shams al-Din and Nadia Alexandrov stood firmly on their decision not to allow their daughter to be subjected to that barbaric practice. For 14 years, Shams al-Din's family could not get another child besides Natasha. They loved their daughter so much and almost worshipped her. Accordingly, when Natasha was deceived and impregnated by her neighbor, her father decided neither to kill her nor to force their neighbor to marry her. Sami Shams al-Din and Nadia Alexandrov decided to allow their daughter to deliver her baby and then find a place to keep it. Shortly before the due date for her delivery, the family somehow found out that there was an orphanage in the capital city of Sudan, which was owned and run by a Christian family. Then the husband and his wife took their daughter, traveled to Khartoum, and met with the owners of that orphanage. A Christian couple known as Wahid Morgas and Mary Morgas owns that place. Wahid and his wife Mary are childless, but in their orphanage, they have 12 illegitimate children. All 12 children are African Sudanese born out of the marriage wedlock to girls from Christian families. 9 of them were born to women originally from the south of Sudan and 3 from the Nuba Mountains. Natasha and her parents stayed with the Christian family until she delivered her baby. The orphanage has one ironclad rule: each child born there or being brought over there must be raised as a Christian. When the atheist father Sami Shams al-Din and the irreligious mother Nadia Alexandrov heard that condition, they told the Morgas Christian family that they don't mind even if the child is raised as a Jew. Furthermore, they informed the orphanage that as soon as the baby was born, they would have nothing to do with him or her. They would neither give him their family name nor would they come to see it again. And that is the way Shams al-Din's family got rid of the illegitimate child and hid the scandal. Natasha Sami Shams al-Din delivered a boy when she was 15 years old. His caretakers gave him the name Gurgis Gabriel and raised him up as a Christian. Chapter 2. Bringing up an illegitimate child in a Muslim country. Gurgis was born and brought up in that Christian orphanage in Khartoum city. When he grew up, he discovered that he was an illegitimate child. He came to know that the people who were taking care of him were not his real father and mother. He tried to find out who his real parents were, but the Morgas family explained to him that it was against the rules of the orphanage to keep records of the real mother and father of the child. The only information they were able to disclose to him was that he belonged to the tribe of Shurjia. That piece of information was based on a guess only. The people of that tribe in Sudan considered themselves to be pure Arabs and direct descendants of Al-Abbas, the uncle of the Prophet Muhammad, and that elevated them to the highest racial, religious, and social status in Sudan as if they are Brahmins in the Indian society. Gurgis Christian caretakers took him regularly to the church from childhood until he grew up. Although Gurgis grew up as a Christian, it has never been heard in Sudan that a Shaiji became a Christian. Consequently, he faced many invincible problems in his life. Wherever he went, he was treated like a filthy, subhuman, and outcast boy. Many times, his classmates mistook him for an apostate from Islam and beat him up. Even the Muslim police, for the same reason, on many occasions caught him and tortured him. Whenever the Christians had their social gatherings or their annual book fair, Gurgis was arrested by the cops and accused of apostatizing from Islam. The cops would not release him until his Christian caretakers would come and rescue him. Whenever that happened, Gurgis had to be publicly disgraced when his caretakers told the police that he was an illegitimate child who was born and brought up in their orphanage, and that his family abandoned him when he was a couple of days old. Among Christians, Gurgis Gabriel was treated with more contempt and looked down upon as if he was a parasite or a virus that infected the pure Coptic Sudanese Christian community. Sudanese Copts would neither marry from other Sudanese tribes nor give their Christian girls in marriage to those Muslim tribes. Even the southern Sudanese Christians would not be allowed to infiltrate that pure Coptic society. The Copts live in a closed community and consider themselves better than all other Sudanese. Gurgis felt he did not belong to either community. By birth, he is an Arab Northern Sudanese, and he is originally from the most prestigious and purest Arabic tribe in Sudan. But his family's rejection and his Christian upbringing deprived him of that high social status. He became like an untouchable boy and outcast in Hindu society. During his schooling, Gurgis Gabriel was constantly harassed by other children when the news reached the school that he was Wad Haram, which means a bastard boy. The stigmatized concept of the Wad al-Haram is very offensive and destructive in a Muslim country. In Muslim society, the Wad Haram or bint Haram is more disgraceful and abhorrent than a prostitute or a gay. A Muslim boy might tolerate if he is called a gay and a Muslim girl a prostitute, but none of them would tolerate being labeled as Wad Haram or bint Haram. Gurgis hated his real parents who abandoned him. He hated the society where he was born and brought up in. His Christian caretakers registered him in a public school, with many of its students being Muslims. Although it is called a public school, it is an Islamic madrasa. The madrasa is the establishment of learning where the Islamic sciences are taught. In that school, Gurgis was always harassed by his teachers as well as his classmates. His teachers discriminated against him because he was an Arab but had a Coptic Christian name. His classmates reproached him because he was a Christian boy. In that school, Islam was the only religion taught on a daily basis. Whenever the Islamic class came, he had to leave the classroom and sit outside all alone. Many times, he got beaten up by bigger Muslim boys for being an Arab Christian. When his persecution reached beyond his ability to tolerate it, he refused to go to school. His caretakers understood his insurmountable problem and transferred him to a private Christian school. The truth of the matter is that his Christian caretakers sent him to that Muslim public school because it is free of charge. The government of Sudan covers the expenses of all Muslim public schools. The students have to pay nothing to attend those government-supported public schools. Additionally, the Ministry of Education provides all the school's supplies, including textbooks. On the contrary, Christian private schools charged a lot of fees and provide nothing to their students except the classes. The students have to pay high fees, provide all their school supplies, and buy their textbooks. When Gurgis was ill-treated by his teachers and classmates in that Muslim public school, his caretakers transferred him to a private Christian school and agreed to cover all the costs. As a matter of fact, the orphanage had never sent a child to a private school except for Gurgis. Sadly, Gurgis was also ill-treated and discriminated against in that private Coptic Christian school because of his odd personality. Although he was badly treated in that private Christian school, Gurgis managed to stay until he finished grade 12. The bitter experience of living in a racist and religious prejudiced society has created in the heart of the so-called bastard son so much anger towards the Sudanese people, Muslims as well as Christians. He hates Coptic Christians more than Sudanese Muslims. The truth of the matter is that Muslims look down upon Christians and consider them dhimmis, and Christians hate Muslims for ill-treating them. To understand the dire social conditions that Gurgis is living in, it would be important to mention the rules that govern the Christians who are living in a Muslim country. According to the Islamic Sharia, Christians living in Muslim countries are not allowed to build new churches, and if they have existing ones, they are not supposed to repair or renovate them. All the existing Christian churches in Muslim countries were built during the British and French colonization of the Middle East and North Africa. According to Islam, if a church was built after Muslim mujahideen invaded a country and occupied it, the Sharia required that that church be demolished and destroyed. This law was based on some of the Prophet Muhammad's hadiths. One of the last things that the Messenger of Allah, may Allah bless him and grant him peace, said, "May Allah curse the Jews and the Christians. They took the graves of their prophets as places of prostration. Two religions shall not coexist in the land of the Arabs," mentioned in Wada Malik. It has been narrated by Omar ibn al-Khattab that he heard the Messenger of Allah, may peace be upon him, say, "I will expel the Jews and Christians from the Arabian Peninsula and will not leave any but Muslims," mentioned in Sahih Muslim. This restriction was also supported by the second Caliph Umar ibn al-Khattab in his so-called Omarian Pact. The first article of that unfair pact stated that Christians shall not build, in their cities or in their neighborhood, new monasteries, churches, convents, or monk cells, nor shall they repair, by day or by night, such of them as fall in ruins. Tafsir ibn Kathir to Surah Al-Tawbah 9, verse 29. Despite the efforts of the Prophet Muhammad and his caliphs to destroy Christianity, still, some remnant followers of Christ survived in the Muslim countries today. But they live under extremely discriminative and unjust social and religious rules. According to the British historian that year, Islam looks at a non-Muslim country and its inhabitants as the land of the non-believers, called the lands of war, Dar al-Harb, where infidels to be fought because they oppose the establishment of the Islamic Sharia laws in their lands. As enemies of Allah, they are accorded no rights. They, themselves, and their property become permissible for all Muslims to do whatever they like to do with them. They can be taken as slaves, kidnapped for ransom, robbed, raped, maimed, or killed with impunity. War is to be waged against them to Islamize their territory, which, according to the beliefs of Islam, must be conquered for Allah. If they resist, Islamic law provides for the deportation or massacre of the men and the enslavement of women and children. From the same author, we find that Christians and Jews who are living in a Muslim country are subjected to some discriminative rules that are meant to dehumanize them. Christians living in Muslim countries were able to survive the discriminative and criminal rules that the Prophet Muhammad and his caliphs prescribed and practiced on them until the European colonizers occupied the Muslim world. For instance, when the British occupied Sudan, Christians were relieved from those discriminative rules and could build new churches and maintain them. They were able to have their own Christian schools and clubs. During the British time, most of the Sharia laws were suspended and secular laws were applied. Muslims and Christians were treated equally before the law in Sudan. When the British left Sudan in 1956, the leadership of the country once again fell in the hands of the Muslim Sudanese. Fortunately, the immediate successors of the British did not change those secular laws. Accordingly, Christians continued to be treated equally to Muslims before the law. The first Sudanese president to bring back the Sharia law was Jafar Muhammad al-Numeri in 1983. As soon as the Islamic laws were restored, Christians were removed from all the important positions such as judges, lawyers, bosses, and leaders. It became impossible for any Christian group to build a new church or school. They were also forbidden from repairing their existing churches. Many Christian schools were shut down. If a window is broken or a washroom tap is leaking in a Christian church, the Christians are not allowed to repair it unless they obtain official permission from the Ministry of Religious Affairs, and that may take months or never come. During that waiting period, the broken window and leaking tap have to remain unrepaired, whatever the seriousness of the problems might be. Even if the church prayer sanctuary is overflooded and the Christians cannot use it, still they are not supposed to fix the problem until permission is given. In every Muslim country, Muslim men use the walls of the Christian church to urinate. They also name their dogs after the 12 disciples of Christ, such as Peter, James, Paul, and John. They do that because they want to hurt the religious sentiments of Christians and provoke them to anger. In that hostile and harsh religious environment, the illegitimate son Gerges Gabriel lived until he reached the age of 18. By that time, he concluded that Sudan was not the right place for him to live forever. He needed to find a place where no one would treat him as an outcast or parasite, but as a human being with equal rights as other citizens of the country. He then was advised by his Christian caretakers to go to Egypt and apply for refugee status. They wrote a big letter in which they described in detail the harsh social conditions in which Gerges was born and brought up. They told him the United Nations Office for Refugees in Cairo might accept his application on a humanitarian basis. They also assured him that if his application is accepted, he will be sent to Canada or Australia for resettlement. The illegitimate son Gerges Gabriel followed their advice and traveled to Egypt to try his luck. At any rate, before we follow the so-called unwanted bastard son to Egypt, we must go back in time to 18 years ago and find out what had happened to the so-called fallen girl Natasha Sami Shams al-Din. The half-caste girl is a half-Russian and half-Sudanese girl who gave birth to an illegitimate son, Gerges Gabriel. Alternatively, we should even go back to the time before she was impregnated without marriage by Gerges in her womb and find out how she got deceived in the name of love and how it all happened. Chapter 3. The Sex Predator and the Innocent Underage Girl. Yasser Saif al-Dawla is the neighbor who deceived the 14-year-old girl Natasha Shams al-Din and impregnated and illegally fathered her first baby boy Gerges Gabriel. 6 years before that tragic event happened, Yasser was compelled by his parents to marry his cousin. It is a custom in Sudan that the boy must marry one of his cousins before he can marry an outside girl who is not related to him. After that family obligation is fulfilled, then the boy is free to marry whoever likes to marry. Yasser was 18-year-old when he married his cousin Badriya, who was 14-year-old on the day of her wedding. It was neither a love marriage nor a forced marriage. It is what the Indians call an arranged marriage. He has never felt any emotional attachment toward his first wife, though the two have lived together for 6 years and have 2 children. Yasser's eyes are always after other girls in the neighborhood. He is a notorious womanizer who worships women more than he worships his God. His wife knows about it, but she could do nothing to stop her husband from sexually harassing other females. The womanizer would have married a second wife besides his first wife, but his financial condition wouldn't allow him to take care of 2 families. He has a small job and therefore his monthly income can hardly meet his family's needs. Badriya had never been to school, and as a pretty young girl, her husband would not allow her to work as a maidservant in a rich family's house. He knows all the Eritrean and Ethiopian maidservants who came to Sudan as refugees get sexually harassed and raped by their employers and their adult sons. Besides that, it is a big shame in Sudan if the Arab man of Yasser's tribe allowed his wife to go to work. He and his wife are from the tribe of the Jalia, which is another high-status tribe in Sudan. It is also believed to be a pure Arab tribe. The sex predator Yasser has cast his eyes on a small, lovely girl who lives near his house. She is the daughter of his neighbors. Though she is a child of 14, still she has a sexy body that kindled the fire of lust in the body of the notorious womanizer. Moreover, she has a unique beauty because her father is Sudanese and her mother is Russian. The sex predator has decided to get her on his bed by hook or by crook. The girl is underage and Yasser was 24 when they met. He claimed he had fallen in love with her, and the small girl too felt she had fallen in love with her married neighbor. In front of his first wife, Yasser is having an open love affair with his underage girlfriend. Whenever Badriya protested, her husband threatened to divorce her and marry the lovely 14-year-old girl. Time and again, he reminded his first wife that as a man, Islam allows him to marry 4 wives at the same time. To protect her marriage and her 2 children, the first wife has tolerated the shameful love affair of her bad husband with the underage girl. Yasser knew that his girlfriend's parents would not agree for marrying their little daughter because he is a married man and has 2 children. In addition, according to their Western standards, their daughter is an underage girl of 14 years, and he is a 24-year-old man and hence is 10 years senior to her. The sex predator knows that in Islam the underage girl is allowed to get married even if she is a 9-year-old child. In a Muslim society like Sudan, the 14-year-old girl is at the ripe age and a marriageable bride. This license is based on the marriage of the Prophet Muhammad and his underage child bride Aisha. The Prophet of Islam was over 50 years old, and Aisha was 6 when he married her, and she became 9 when he had sex with her. Moreover, the Quran allows Muslim men to marry underage girls who have not yet begun to menstruate or reach their puberty. See Surah Al-Talaq 65, verse 4. Despite all these obstacles, The sex predator has decided to do something to force the parents of his underage girlfriend to give him their daughter in marriage against their better judgment. He convinced her to allow him to commit adultery with her and make her pregnant before marriage, and that would force her parents to agree to their matrimonial union, despite her young age. He also promised her that as soon as her father agrees to their marriage, he will divorce his first wife Badriya and then marry her and makes her his only Muslim wife. Being unmatured and still a child, the underage girl agreed to sleep with her married boyfriend prior to their marriage. Shortly after deceiving and raping her, the little girl became pregnant. Everybody around them knew Yasser had impregnated the little girl outside of the marriage bond. Even Badriya confirmed the adultery and pregnancy when her neighbors inquired about the scandal. She said that she saw with her own eyes her husband when he stripped the little girl naked and fornicated with her in her bedroom. She kept quiet because she did not want to be beaten and get divorced and be deprived of her 2 children. If such a bad thing happened to her, then the small girl would marry her husband and she would be the loser. Things did not go the way Yasser and his little girlfriend planned for. When the parents came to know about the pregnancy of their underage daughter, they sought a solution no one ever had anticipated. Yasser was attacked and badly battered by the cousins of the little girl. He was half dead when those angry cousins of the illegally pregnant had mercilessly hammered him in an honor-killing attempt. The outraged cousins swore by Allah that as soon as Yasser got discharged from the hospital, they would murder him for making their cousin pregnant with an illegitimate child. By doing such an abomination to their unmarried relative, he brought disgrace to their families. His first wife Badriya heard about the decision of the outraged cousins and informed her husband before he left the hospital. To escape the wrath of the vengeful cousins, the coward man Yasser traveled directly from the hospital to the capital city of Sudan. He took with him his first wife and their 2 daughters. And that move apparently had ended the sad chapter of selfish love in the city of Wadi Madani. Despite that, what the sex predator Yasser had done with that underage girl continued to haunt her and her parents wherever they went. It turned their life into a living hell and made them smell shame, and the scandal followed them no matter where they tried to hide from it. That unfortunate underage girl is none other than the half-caste girl Natasha, the daughter of the Sudanese man Sami Shams al-Din and the Russian woman Nadia Alexandrov. She is the illegally pregnant 14-year-old girl who gave birth to the illegitimate son Gergis Gabriel in the orphanage of the Morgus Christian family. Chapter 4. The Never-Ending Sex Scandal. As soon as Shams al-Din's family returned from Khartoum after their daughter delivered her firstborn in that Christian orphanage, the scandal began to smell out. Sami and his wife Nadia discovered too late that they made a big mistake by allowing their selfish neighbor to get away with his crime. Everyone is talking about the scandal after the cousins attacked their neighbor who impregnated their adulterous cousin. Sami Shams al-Din's father, uncles, and cousins came and confronted him. They rebuked him for not killing his adulterous daughter or the evil man who filled her womb with shame. They told him that his immoral daughter brought great shame to her family. They threatened to cut all ties with him if he did not do something to stop the scandal from spreading and destroying their reputation among other people. They informed him that his cousins tried to kill the adulterous neighbor who illegally impregnated his whore daughter, but the coward man ran away from the city and no one knew where he went. Finally, they made it noticeably clear that if he does not perform the honor killing on his shameful daughter, they will allow his cousin brothers to perform that obligation. Sami Shams al-Din tried to convince his furious father and outraged uncles and cousins that his daughter was just a child of 14 years of age when that selfish and cowardly neighbor deceived her in the guile of love and therefore impregnated her. No matter how hard he tried, Sami could not be able to convince them. That family confrontation ended up with a collective agreement that Sami Shams al-Din does not care about the honor of his family, and those who care about it must cleanse it by shedding the blood of his fallen daughter. The father understood that his daughter's life would be in danger if he continued to live in that city. He explained to his Russian wife that his Muslim relatives will not rest until they kill their so-called disgraceful daughter. Nadia Alexandrov has become exceedingly shocked and become extremely frightened when she heard that some of her husband's close relatives want to kill her only daughter. She supported the decision of her husband and fled with him and their beloved underage daughter out of the city. The Shams al-Din family left everything they owned in that city and escaped shortly after that family's confrontation. They left their house, work, private medical clinic, and other property and ran away with their beloved daughter Natasha. The only city in Sudan where a person can hide from his relatives among millions of people is the capital city. Khartoum has a population of over 10 million people. Sami Shams al-Din and his family fled under the cover of the night and traveled to Khartoum. The runaway family thought that no one could find them in that crowded cosmopolitan city. They concluded that the scandal had been buried in the city they left behind. Albeit Sami Shams al-Din and Nadia Alexandrov discovered that the news of their daughter's disgraceful act had already reached the capital city before they came there. Wherever they went, they met someone they knew or a relative whose presence in the capital city would remind them of the scandal and the honor killing. Even so, they always ignored those people and sometimes pretended as if they did not know them. Some of those people forced themselves on them and tried to find out where they were staying. Shams al-Din's family always lied about their hiding place and gave the wrong address. Shortly after their arrival in the capital city, the family enrolled their daughter in a public school. Natasha has already lost one academic year due to her illegal pregnancy. She is supposed to be in grade 9, but her parents lied about her age and registered her in grade 8. In the beginning, Natasha enjoyed her new school and made new friends. Regrettably, a few months later, the scandal somehow crept into that school and turned her life into a living hell. Sadly, when the news reached the capital city, it was twisted into a nasty story. Those who heard it began to whisper it to one another. Many girls came to know that Natasha was impregnated by someone before marriage and delivered an illegitimate child. Her parents allowed her to deliver the baby, and after that, they strangled its neck and killed it. Due to the scandal, Natasha and her parents fled from Wad Madani and came to hide in the capital city. This half-true and half-false nasty story has spread around the school until finally reached the ears of the headmistress. Consequently, Natasha Shams al-Din has been called in and interrogated by the school authority. When she denied the allegation, the headmistress contacted her parents. Although the parents also denied the allegation, they still understood that their daughter would be harassed continuously by her teachers and girls. They removed her from that all-girls school and transferred her to another school. Natasha enjoyed some peace of mind in that girls' public school until she completed grade 8. Unfortunately, the ghost of that scandal haunted the new school as soon as the new academic year began. Some of the students heard that the new girl in their class was impregnated by someone before marriage. Some of their friends from the other school that Natasha attended before she moved to their school have disclosed that nasty gossip to them. When their summer vacation was over, they brought the bad news of Natasha's scandal with them and spread it like fire around the school. Once again, that vicious cycle has been repeated, and Natasha is called in and questioned by the school authority. When she denied the accusation, her parents were notified and required to come in to elucidate the allegation. Once more, the parents rejected the allegation and took their daughter out of that school too. This time, they decided not to send her to any school. Sami Shams al-Din and Nadia Alexandrov found it hard to deny their only daughter her right of being educated. They understood that the scandal will follow their daughter as her shadow wherever she goes in Sudan. Moreover, they anticipated that when their daughter grows up, she may not find anyone to marry her. Even if she finds someone to marry her without knowing about her past, later when he comes to know about the scandal, her marriage will end up in a disaster. Foreseeing that gloomy future waiting ahead for their daughter, Sami and Nadia decided to leave Sudan and immigrate to another country. At first, they thought of returning to Russia. The economic conditions of that country discouraged them from going there. Sami Shams al-Din and Nadia Alexandrov approached many Western embassies in Khartoum, but everywhere they went they found the requirements for immigrating to those countries are high above their qualifications and expectations. When all the doors are shut on their faces, the desperate family decided to continue living in Sudan. This time, they decided to put their daughter in a private school that is meant for foreign children who are living in Sudan. The medium of instruction in that school is English. Although the school charged high fees, the parents still decided to bear all the costs to keep their daughter in a healthy environment. They want her not to be harassed by her school authority and classmates. Natasha Shams al-Din has registered in that private school and began her new academic year. It is a co-education school where the students are a mixture of boys and girls, and the teachers likewise men and women. Chapter 5. The two friends Daria and Maria. Although the private school where the half-caste girl Natasha is enrolled is charging so much money, still it has a good reputation for its distinction and high standard. All its teachers have been carefully selected based on their high qualifications and good performance. They are all foreigners except for 3. Those 3 are Sudanese teachers. The first one is the teacher of the Arabic language, the second teacher is teaching the religion of Islam, and the third teacher is teaching the religion of Christianity. It is imperative for every private school in Sudan to teach those 3 subjects. The Arabic language teacher is known as Daria, the teacher of the Islamic religion is called Shadia, and the teacher of the Christian faith is named Maria. Among those 3 Sudanese teachers, only Shadia is not going to be a person of interest to us. The reason for excluding her will become clear as the story keeps unfolding. The teacher of the Arabic language, Daria, is in her late 30s and has not yet found anyone to marry her. Besides her lack of beauty, she is exceedingly hot-tempered and has many more bad traits. She is one of 2 daughters in her family. Her father used to teach at Khartoum University, but he immigrated to Canada and became a teacher of the Arabic language at the University of Calgary. Before he immigrated, he divorced his Sudanese Muslim wife after he lived with her for 20 years and begot 2 daughters. In Canada, he married a white Christian woman and has 2 daughters with her. Somehow, he convinced his second wife to forsake her Christian religion and become Muslim like him. Their 2 daughters are Muslim by name, but practically they have nothing to do with that Arab religion. When they grew up, they refused to don the hijab and abaya. Both sisters put on shirts and trousers, put on bikinis, go to beaches and swimming pools, smoke cigarettes and drink alcohol, are having non-Muslim boyfriends and fornicated with them outside the marriage bonds, and go with them to discos. Although Daria visited her father twice in Canada, still she did not like the life over there. She hated her new stepmother and her half-sisters. Likewise, her half-sisters hated her and considered her to be a dumb Muslim woman who looked like a ghost or a Halloween witch in her black Islamic clothes. The teacher of the Christian religion, Maria, is a southern Sudanese girl who was born and brought up in the north of Sudan. Although her father is a Catholic priest, still she is not a committed Christian. When she was a teenage girl, Maria was trained to be a nun. She studied at a seminary college. After her graduation, she changed her mind and ended up being a schoolteacher. She is like Daria in many ways except that she is a Christian and her friend is a Muslim. Maria is also struggling to find a life partner. She is 2 years younger than Daria. The 2 teachers are remarkably close friends. Many of the foreign teachers and Sudanese students mistook them for lesbians, but none of the 2 friends is gay or has such an erotic inclination toward the same sex. Each girl is desperately searching for a lover to marry her, but none of them has found such a guy who wants to be friendly with her or propose to her for marriage. In the meantime, the sex predator Yasser Sef al-Dawla has been able to hide himself in the capital city and soon forgot about his child victim Natasha Shams al-Din and the sex crime that he committed against her. In his new dwelling place, he developed another bad habit of pursuing middle-aged women who are desperately looking for life partners. He was able to find a nice job, which helped him to make good money. He has been employed as a maintenance worker in the same school where his sex victim Natasha will later come to hide from the scandal of adultery, pregnancy, and delivery of an illegitimate baby out of the marriage bond. He is working for a year in that gainful employment before Natasha's good parents transferred their beloved daughter to that private school. Because of his good income, Yasser married a second wife. His new wife is none other than the ugly teacher of the Arabic language. His second Muslim wife, Daria, is 10 years older than him. She is making more money than he makes in a month. Daria could be able to control Yasser and dictate her terms to him. She forced him to send his first Muslim wife, Badriya, back to her parents in the city of Wadi Madani without divorcing her. Though he kicked his first wife out of his life, still Yasser kept his 2 daughters with him. Badriya has been sent back to her city and parents' house empty-handed. Her 2 daughters have been turned into unpaid maidservants by the second Muslim wife of their father. Yasser discovered that his life became worse than hell after he forsook his first wife and married a second wife. His new wife is constantly nagging him about everything. Despite that, Yasser tolerated his new wife because of her good income. Shortly after their marriage, his second wife Daria was fired from her good job. Although she refused to reveal the reason that led her to be kicked out of work, Yasser came to know that she was involved in a financial offense. The school did not only fire her but took the case to court. The court found Daria guilty of stealing from the school treasury and sentenced her to 6 months imprisonment. The second Muslim wife of Yasser was 6 months pregnant when she went to jail. While she was serving her sentence, she delivered a baby girl. As soon as his second wife Daria went behind bars, Yasser traveled to his old city Wadi Madani and brought back his first Muslim wife Badriya. He did not bring her back because he missed her or loved her, but because he wanted her to take care of his house and their 2 daughters. While Daria was in the women's prison in Khartoum City, her husband developed another secret love affair with her best friend Maria. In the beginning, Yasser was not intending to marry Maria. He just wanted to enjoy her body and have free sex with her. Maria is a smart woman and understood his evil intention. She refused to allow him to touch her body unless he should first marry her. She claimed to be a committed Christian girl, and her religion doesn't permit her to sleep with a man prior to their marriage. Like her friend Daria, Maria is lacking in beauty and has a nasty character. Despite her unpleasant personality, the selfish sex predator agreed to marry her because of her nice teaching position and high monthly income. Yet another condition that Maria made to her lover before they got married is that she would not change her religion under any circumstances. Since Islam allows the Muslim man to marry a Christian woman, the notorious womanizer did not mind that condition, and hence he went ahead and married Maria as his wife number 3. Accordingly, Yasser Saif al-Dawla now has 3 wives at the same time: Badriya, Daria, and Maria. The Quran allows the Muslim man to have up to 4 wives at the same time. See Surah Al-Nisa 4, verse 3. His first Muslim wife Badriya gave birth to 2 daughters, and his second Muslim wife Daria delivered his 3rd daughter while she is still in jail. His 3 daughters are known as Shadia, Sasan, and Shama. Yasser has a 4th child. He fathered outside of the marriage bond with his underage girlfriend Natasha. The sex predator has no knowledge of his Christian son Gergis Gabriel. Though Natasha knew about her firstborn, she flushed out of her life on the day she delivered him in that Christian orphanage, as if a young woman flushed her feces in a toilet. Neither she nor her parents ever returned again to see him or know which name he has been given by his Christian caretakers.